Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the most magical podcast in the Midwest. The Magic in the Midwest podcast, starring USA Today bestselling author J.B. Michaels and his more successful wife, Ashley Michaels. And now your hosts. Oh, wow, thanks so much, announcer. Yeah, I guess I am a USA Today bestselling author. And I guess my wife is more successful than me. Mm-hmm. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am J.B. Michaels. This is
Ashley Michaels.
Ashley Michaels. Happy Valentine's Day dish to everybody. It is the 46th episode, the 4-6 defense, the world-famous Chicago Bears 1985 scheme that dominated the world. Yes, it's episode number 46, and this is the Magic in the Midwest podcast. As we've said before in the past, I have a lot of books. There are a range of options for people. If you like cozy mysteries, read those. If you like action, supernatural action adventures, we've got that. If you want just straight up fantasy action adventure, we also have that. Pixar, like lots of different things for people to choose from, honestly. In the library of JB. Ash just read a JB book yesterday.
Did.
So, that's nice. People do read them. So, and then...
People do.
People do. Also, ladies and gentlemen, you can find more of JB and Ash in Magic in the Midwest on the Bandcamp exclusive episodes. And if you go to magicinthemidwestpodcast.bandcamp.com, you can, for as little as $3 a month, support us, support the podcast, and help us kind of offset the costs of creating this podcast and all the time and effort that goes into it, which, believe me, we spend a great deal of time and effort researching, obsessing, going to theme parks, which we just if we're not going to theme parks, we're pretending like we're planning to go to theme parks.
Yes.
So please check us out. You get some great exclusive content. I did a little anecdotal poll of one of our subscribers, and he said that 75% of the time he likes the Bandcamp exclusives just a little bit better than the mainline podcasts, right? So, so if you want to check those out, they are there for you. Lots of content.
Yeah, they're a little bit more, I would say, loose,
right?
Casual. There's a little bit more banter, if you can imagine more banter.
Right.
There's a little bit more.
There's a little bit more.
At that point in the recording process, JB and I have been in front of each other for a little bit longer.
And we don't really want to be around each other. Yes.
It's the real deal.
Papes. But anyway.
Call the hotline.
Yes, please. So basically, so if you go there, you can subscribe and get double the content. So literally, there's 46 more episodes. There's the typical beep. There's 46 more episodes
every time
of Magic in the Midwest for you to delight in on Bandcamp, the Bandcamp exclusives. Which is pretty great. Also, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to check out my books, they're available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere books are sold, Smashwords, iBooks, lots of different places you could look at, check out the books. MrMichaels.com, MISTER Michaels.com is a place to check out more info about the author end of this. Also, if you need anything insurance-wise, I'm also in insurance, you guys, so... anything, home and auto, personal lines, business lines, whatever you need, just please reach out to us or reach out to me, and we will help you out with that. I know it's one of those things that people just don't think about and don't really want to think about, right? You said it and forget it, but, if you need anything, I will help you, and you get to work with me,
I mean, if that's not enough of a bonus.
I know.
Do it.
Yeah. Anyway, today we thought we would talk about another theme park in Central Florida, and we're going to talk about, just do an overview episode of the entire resort up until this point, and there is technically some competition for Disney. down there in Central Florida.
I think now more than ever.
Yes, yeah. It started in the 90s, in the early 90s. I believe it opened early 1991 or 1990. I can't remember. But yes, that is a theme park called Universal Studios Florida. So that was the original theme park, Universal Studios Florida. Now, Universal Studios Florida, was the first true theme park that Universal would make. Because remember, Universal Studios in Hollywood is sort of a combination of the actual studio, okay, and like a theme park, with like a studio with attractions kind of built into it, whereas this is like Universal's first full-fledged theme park. Now, they had bought a decent amount of land right near Orlando off International Parkway, so you're technically a little bit closer to Orlando Airport going to Universal Studios than you are going to Disney. When it first opened, it opened with amazing attractions that were of its time, I suppose, but I think still are timeless. It opened with King Kong, Jaws, Alfred Hitchcock, behind a big Alfred Hitchcock exhibit. It opened with the Hard Rock Cafe. There was a recreation of the Norman Bates Motel. There was Nickelodeon Studios over there. There was Earthquake, which is an attraction designed for the movie from the 1970s, Universal film. There was a Beetlejuice show, a Ghostbusters show. So there was a decent amount of things that you could do that were classic. Back to the Future would not open with the park. It would open a little bit later than the park opened, but still a lot of cool things to go see in the original days of Universal Studios Florida. So fast forward about 10 years or so, Universal decides that they're going to use that land that they bought. So they decided that they would build out a whole resort. So it's starting to sort of realize, hey, let's really put the pressure on Disney, and they opened up a second theme park called Universal's Islands of Adventure, okay, which was really neat and is really neat. Still a great park, I think. It is basically split up into a bunch of different islands around a lagoon. So you have Marvel Superhero Island. You've got Toon Lagoon, which is basically like a bunch of comic strip characters, cartoons, like Dudley Do Right, Popeye, some not Disney branded cartoons, obviously. Then you have Jurassic Park. Then after Jurassic Park, when the original park opened, it was called the Lost Continent, the next area. And after the Lost Continent, which was like a fantasy area with dueling dragons in it, then you had, of course, Seuss Landing, which is still there. Okay, and and it's interesting too. When you walk in Islands of Adventure, there's also the Port of Entry, which is a whole area that's sort of like a mystical Main Street area that you kind of walk through. So that's kind of a quick overview. But with Universal Orlando, Ash, do you know what they opened up some resorts? What are those? What are those deluxe resorts?
Royal Pack.
Yes, Royal Pacific.
Okay.
Listen, you're not getting quizzed. You already know that. We just talked about it.
I know, but I'm not good with names. Portofino.
Yes, Portofino Bay.
And Hard Rock?
Yeah, and Hard Rock Hotel. So, now, Universal partnered with Lowe's Hotels, and basically they built out this entire area. And Universal also built out City Walk, Universal City Walk as well. It kind of expanded at this time as well. So you had, this whole big area, which in a way is sort of like a downtown Disney, or a Disney Springs type of situation, where you walk through a bunch of clubs, bars, restaurants, and they're outside of the theme parks, and then you walk through and you have, Universal Studios on the right, okay, with the big classic archway and the globe spinning, at the fountain, and then you have Islands of Adventure on the left. So, all right, so let's just kind of do a quick overview of these, Ash.
Yeah,
so
you kind of went on
first,
and on there.
Sorry, I know I was just giving everybody a little background on the prop.
Just kidding.
Okay, so and then obviously now they also have the Volcano Bay water park as well. But so we're about 10 years in. We're at Universal, and we've got basically Universal Orlando. So it went from Universal Studios Florida to now they originally called it U Escape, which the marketing on that was disastrous.
They did?
Yeah, they did. The original push for islands in the whole area was U Escape, but people were associating escape with danger, so that it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
Whereas, I thought of it as escape reality and go have fun, but most people didn't think that. The marketing kind of tanked a little bit because it kind of had a rough start to it.
Yeah.
And believe me, I know that because I was there. I was there. Me and my cousin went to Universal Orlando when it first opened, and there was nobody at Universal Islands of Adventure. Just nobody. We literally did everything. It was amazing.
Yeah.
We were blown away about how
crazy.
Awesome this park was.
But people just weren't.
People weren't there.
Just weren't doing it.
It was September when we went to. I mean, I guess that could be another case. It was
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. It's still. Yeah. Now it would still be busy. I mean, in a normal time.
Right. So basically, when I first went to Universal Studios when I was a kid, there was no Royal Pack. There was no Hard Rock. There was no Portofino Bay. So we stayed at a Howard Johnson tower across the street, which I don't even know if they have anymore. I think Howard Johnson's, now just a different model of business, I think. But anyway, so we stayed there, and then we just, cabbed it over or drove over to the parking garage. And I distinctly remember the parking garage as being split up into Jaws. And Jaws area, the King Kong area.
That's cool.
I remember that. I was this is so cool. Oh my gosh, I was so excited. Yeah. And then, of course, I've already told this story, but when we walked up to Universal Studios Florida when I was a kid, we walked up and King Kong was closed. And that was the one ride that I really wanted to go on.
Yeah.
And Jaws wasn't even open yet. So it was we didn't have a whole lot to do. But we still enjoyed it. It was still great.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? You're already there. But...
E.T. was open. We did do E.T.
Okay.
E.T. is so great. So I hope they never get rid of it. Spielberg basically said, you can't get rid of this ride.
Well...
I mean, you have to think about when people disrespect E.T., Sand. When people disrespect E.T., they disrespect the man who built the place. Yeah. That's the alien who built the place. What people don't realize is Universal Studios. Steven Spielberg saved Universal Studios with Jaws and with the movies after that, Close Encounters. He really legit saved. Actually, I don't think Close Encounters was Universal, and then of course he went back to Universal with E.T. and then E.T. You guys was the #1 movie of all time for many years. For many years, it made gobs and gobs of money.
Yeah.
So. And then Universal Spielberg and Universal have just been so connected. Sid Sheinberg and, Spielberg were best buds. And Sheinberg wanted to open up a theme park. And he was like, well, you got to have Steven involved, And you could tell, a lot of those early attractions, a lot of the great stuff that you see, a lot of the great classic attractions are Steven Spielberg properties, right? Jurassic Park and E.T.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, it's so great. I love it. Okay, so Ash, now just give me just give me your overall. Now you're coming. You actually you were there when you were a kid.
I was 16.
Softball, right?
I think was the first time I was there. I was there once when I was 16.
Okay,
for softball.
So give us your impressions of that. You just did Islands, right?
I think we just did islands.
Okay.
I don't remember for sure. It's too long ago now. But
you're not that old. Jeez Louise.
But I remember we had nationals down there and we lost at some point. And then we, the benefit of that though is that,
go have fun.
We're going to go to a theme park. And honestly, at that point, I don't remember much more than it being a great time to run around with friends and go on, I remember going on the Hulk.
Yes.
And I remember at the time, and I don't know how it is now, so don't judge me.
Right.
Is that I remember going up to that little machine where it would tell you when to come back.
Yeah.
So you didn't really have to wait in line. So I don't know if that's something we bought extra with our ticket or.
Oh, that's weird.
I remember going up to a little machine, like a kiosk, and then it would tell us what time to come back.
Really?
Yeah.
Like a fast pass, basically.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know. Maybe it was.
I don't remember how long we waited when we came back, but I don't think it was super long. And I just remember running around. I think we did that
Spider-Man, Dueling Dragons.
I think it would have been there.
Oh, that's so good.
But those are really the rides I remember. We were also very into getting our hair braided and maybe henna tattoos at the time because we were 15-year-old girls. So that was something that we did, and then we did some shopping. But I remember we had a fun time, and at that age, I was aware that the park was an upgrade from something like Six Flags.
Right.
At that point, I was aware that this wasn't the same as that.
Right.
But I just remember we had a great time, and we ran around, and our parents probably didn't know where we were half the time, but we had a great time.
Well, see, and here's the thing about Universal, you guys. Universal, and this is universally known, does not appeal. It's not for little kids. It's not. There is nothing for your little kids to do. If you take your little kids there, you're going to be like, what else do we do?
I know they have Curious George and Seuss Landing specifically.
It's a playground.
Whatever. But to me, if that's all your kids can do,
E.T.,
that's not super appealing to me.
The 5-volt coaster.
I know people that take young kids there. I guess you just know what the expectation is. I will say real quick, though, that Universal's Child Swap is just more convenient than Disney's.
Right.
Disney doesn't let everyone wait in the line. You have to kind of stay off to the side. The nice thing about Universal is that if you do have young kids and they don't really mind that they're not doing much, you can all wait in line together, and then one person can get on the ride and then switch. You don't have to go through a fast pass line and wait off to the side and... One interesting thing, right, is that, you're right. There is Seuss Landing. There's just the amount that small children could do at Universal is just much less than Disney. I agree, and I know,
doesn't make it
we know a lot of people that still take really young kids. For me, the ticket price isn't justified by going to play on a playground.
Right.
Personally, I don't want to do that. I'm not even interested in taking Harrison really now, to be honest.
He's not, you can wait a little bit.
Because there are some rides at Disney that he's still not into, and I know there's no, he would be terrified of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
He just wouldn't get on
right.
it. And, what's the point then?
Right.
Each kid is different, too. If you have a kid that loves all that stuff and is now tall enough, then great. But, I would rather wait a few years to take him. I just think that
if we went, there would still be things for him to do.
Well, and just for reference, though, he's almost 6.
Most of Universal is pretty aimed at older kids, right? Most of the time. So when you were 16, you were at Islands, you had a blast.
Yeah, a lot of the parents just stayed at the hotel. There was a group of moms that came,
but
they weren't
usually,
with us. They were doing their own thing, and then we would meet up for lunch.
They were at City Walk getting sloshed.
Maybe, probably.
Margaritaville.
Yeah. And we just had the best time. We just ran around. It was a great age to be there, and also, we weren't getting into trouble yet. We couldn't drink or, anything like that. So it was, I just remember we had a great time.
Well, yes. And so Universal, I went and I really loved, so when I was a kid, obviously I was sad that I couldn't get on Kong, but we went Back to the Future, right? And it was just amazing. It was just holy cow, Back to the Future was so good. My whole family loved it. We went on multiple times. Luckily, I think Back to the Future basically saved that first trip that we had. Because Jaws wasn't open. There was just not much to do, so... And we went in the Hitchcock thing, and that was really great, except I was terrified. I was terrified, and I made my mom leave the Psycho. They broke down how shot by shot, which is really neat. Like, now I would absolutely love it. But, like, they broke down shot by shot in the Alfred Hitchcock Presents, like, experience, like, the shower scene from Psycho. And they literally told you how they did it.
That's
and,
cool.
And, like, went through every thing that they did, the chocolate syrup, circling down the drain, like, it was so neat. And I just was so scared of Psycho as a kid that I just couldn't do it. Like, and all it took was we went to video stores, okay, and I would see the box for Psycho 2 and 3. Where
but
Norman's
you know how it is
like
when you're a kid.
And he's like really creepy looking, and he's got like the keys in his head. Like, which, by the way, Psycho 2 is a really solid movie. 3 not so much, but 2 is really good.
Mm-hmm.
But like I was just like terrified of it. You know what I mean? Just really scared of this because it was my first like real like exposure to horror.
Yeah.
In some way. So that was kind of scary. I did not go in there. And then, of course, we went to the Hard Rock Cafe when we left that night. Mm-hmm. And me and my grandma and grandpa are sitting in a room in the Hard Rock that is dedicated to Norman Bates and Psycho. There was literally, like, memorabilia, and there was a case with the knife.
Okay.
A knife prop used in this filming of Psycho. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're here. But I was fine. I made it. But I did get a really cool King Kong like trucker hat, like that's like raised. It was raised foam. With like a kind of 3D Kong on it, and I got a cool like notepad from Universal Studios Florida, and of course the mug that I drink out of periodically. Yes,
you do.
That says Jimmy on it. Mm-hmm. So. That was my first experience. Like, you had a really, it's funny, you came into it as a teen.
Yeah.
And it blew your mind. It was so great. And I'll be honest, when I went to Islands the first time, I was like 19. And it was, you're right. Going on Hulk blew my mind. Like, I've never experienced a launch coaster. Like that.
It was, what's funny about that is, hopefully it's, it's a little bit spoilery, but most people listening to this have been on Hulk or, know. But I remember when we were waiting in line for it, and there's that, like, tube around the launch. And somehow, even though you see the coaster come out quick at the end, like,
you were not ready.
You're not, like, paying attention, and you don't put it together, and then because you just like you go to default roller coaster mode, you know. And I remember getting on the ride, and then you start to go up slow, and then all of a sudden you just like launch forward. And I remember thinking that was like the coolest, and then I think you go like upside down at the top.
Oh my gosh.
There's like a corkscrew at the top of it.
Things.
It's cool.
Yeah.
But then I also went back when I was 21. We were there for softball again, this time for college, and we always had one day off, and we would normally go to the beach, but that year we went to... we normally would go to Fort Myers.
Okay.
And then my senior year, we played in Orlando, so we decided to do Universal, and they were building Harry Potter at the time, and so we could kind of see it,
Hogwarts,
which was, we
Hogsmeade.
were all excited about that. We actually did not do a lot of drinking because, we were playing the next day, and we weren't supposed to be drinking at all, but we did a little.
Right. Well, you were 21.
We were 21.
Yeah.
And it was just a great time to go, and we all had a ton of fun together,
Well, and see, here's a great segue, right? So, I could go through chronologically. In 97, I went back. Kong was open. It blew my mind. I was so happy that I was able to go back, and Twister was open, and so it evolved over time. Universal Studios evolved over time. Guys, Chicago. But anyway, but therein lies my point. So when I went at 19, we did Horror Nights 2 as well. Me and Kenny at Universal Studios Florida. That was my first Horror Nights experience. It was amazing, and it sparked this huge obsession with my entire group of people.
Wait, who started it?
Me.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. Yes, not Sand.
Or anyone else.
Or anyone. Yeah, nor anyone else. Yes. Yes. I am the Godfather.
Maybe you should plan it.
No, I don't care about that. All right, so
nobody should.
Yeah, just go, guys. Have fun. Make it together and go. But anyway, so So they're, loving that whole experience. Being older, really, I went like when I was 16, and then again I was 19, and we did or like Islands of Adventure, and just I was absolutely blown away. Like almost every attraction at the time, it was Hulk, Spidey.
Spider-Man's so good.
Spider-Man is amazing.
I remember going on Spider-Man after Hulk, and I was like, man.
Yeah.
I don't know which one I like better.
I know.
They were both just, just fun.
Yeah, we did Dudley Do-Rights. We did Jurassic Park. Me and Kenny did the whole park, like literally like half a day because there was just nobody around. Dually Dragons blew our mind there
fire
as well.
and ice, and you had to like pick which side.
Yeah, it was great. Fun. So like now most of those attractions you have to be pretty tall. And then I guess like a couple of years later, a few years later, I told my buddies, I was like, and then you have City Walk, right? And this is when we were over 21, like all of us. I think we were like early 20s, early to mid 20s. We were like, let's just go to Universal for a week, like a trip. Let's just do a trip to Universal Studios and Universal Orlando. And we did. And we had an absolute blast. We stayed for like 4 days. We stayed at Royal Pacific. I think that's where we stayed. And yeah, it was. And then so we stayed at Royal Pacific, and we just had an absolute blast. It was me, Tony, Steve, and Dave. And it was just, we just had fun as like 20-something people who, after the parks closed, where'd we go? We went to City Walk. We went to Pat O'Brien's. Right? We would go to Pat O'Brien's and have a drink.
Which, I mean, we've talked about in previous podcasts, but you think the way that Universal is set up with City Walk on the way out, essentially.
In and after,
out. Is really great for that age group where you're leaving the park and you still want to be out.
Yeah.
It's just great. Okay, well, let's grab a drink here. Let's grab a pretzel, or let's do whatever and dink around in the middle of the whatever. I mean, like just being 20-year-old idiots.
Yeah, so we
having
did.
The best time.
Yeah, we just had fun. We just had the hurricanes. We just had a cool routine. We would get all dressed nicely, right, and then go out.
There is something about like Universal too, where I mean, there's a huge difference if you walk into Magic Kingdom versus walking into Universal Studios. There's not nearly as many strollers. Yes, there are kids and stuff, but it's not quite as prevalent.
Right.
It's kind of, when I think about Universal, I think about a little bit more of an older kid, at least. Older kid.
Yeah.
Because even though there are a decent, like Harrison's actually tall enough to go on almost all of the rides except for some of the roller coasters, like Hulk, which is like 52 inches or whatever. But just because your kid is tall enough to go on some of those rides doesn't mean they'll want to. I think whereas like at Disney, there's a lot of rides that Harrison's tall enough to do that he wants to do. Where,
good point.
Just because he's tall enough for these rides at Universal, now that all varies by kid. So you could tell me that your 4-year-old went on Jurassic Park and loved it. All just depends, right? It's all relative.
Yes.
But I think by far, when you're walking into Universal, it's just a little bit more, it just strikes me more of as like an adult atmosphere. Our kids have gotten to this point where they don't need strollers and we're all going to go on these rides, and it's just, there's a little bit of a shift.
Yes, yeah. And so now at that time that we went, and then we kept going back like for years, it was just, now that's changing. It's changing. Universal's expanding and growing. There's one word for that, and it was Harry Potter. 2 words, Harry Potter. One word.
Harry Potter.
I could have said Hogwarts, but instead I said one word, Harry Potter. That doesn't make any sense. So basically, Harry Potter. So Universal Orlando comes out. And it's great for a while, and it's Islands of Adventure is lauded, and it wins best theme park in the world, and blah blah blah, and it blows everybody's minds. Then things sort of like slow down a little bit for Universal, and 9/11 sort of hit too around that time, so things got kind of low for them, and it was harder for them after spending all of this money expanding the resort and expanding building another theme park and building 3 hotels on property, and all the work and that entails. So things slowed down a little bit, and for a while there, Orlando was sort of in trouble. Yeah. So then, so Universal was sort of in trouble, and then of course there was this bidding war for who would get the Harry Potter, theme park rights. Right. Yeah. And Universal winds up winning because they promised a bigger area and more attractions for their parks, whereas Disney wanted to put Harry Potter's one attraction in Fantasyland, like a little section of Fantasyland, which J.K. Rowling was like, no, that's not enough. We need to have more. So here, so Harry Potter opens and blows everybody's minds, right? Great ride. Forbidden Journey's awesome. Hogsmeade's great. Everything's great. The butterbeer blows up too. Everybody loves the butterbeer. So Harry Potter sort of saves Universal Orlando and then puts it on a track of profitability. Another huge profitability factor is the increasingly popular Halloween Horror Nights event that we've talked about in the past, and we'll talk more about in the future. So now Universal's now sort of thinking, let's build more. So they bought this whole other piece of land that's like south of Universal Orlando, but not it's not completely connected, which is weird. So it's other people own stuff in the middle, and then it's their other park.
Yeah.
They're going to build Universal's, which is a weird name, Universal's Epic Universe Park. That's the name of it. But that's been tabled to 2026, 27. We don't know now because of the current state of events.
Universal's Epic Universe.
Yeah, Universal's Epic Universe.
Come on, creative.
Which
a little bit better.
Which it'll be really, I'm sure it'll be great. But now, so Universal in the future is going to be a little bit more like Disney World. Whereas the appeal right now is what, Ash? What do you think is the appeal of Universal Orlando? Besides the older factor, but also what else?
I don't know.
It's contained. Everything's right there. You know what I mean? It's all right there.
Oh, that,
you don't have to, there's not buses you have to get in all the, you don't have to plan out 4 different theme parks that are spread around.
Yeah, I'll say that I think transportation with Universal is, we don't use it when we're there. I don't think it's the best. But once you're on property, you're pretty much everywhere you need to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
You
Once
can decide to go from this park to that park to City Walk. You don't need to, whereas if you're at Disney and you want to go from Disney Spring, to Animal Kingdom or Animal Kingdom to Epcot or whatever, there's some things that you need to do that are going to take time and effort and figuring it all out.
Right.
I would say that, like I said, I don't think the transportation within Universal property that they provide is as good as consistent as Disney's.
No.
But it can't be for certain logistic reasons. But yeah, once you're on property, that's pretty much all you have to do.
Well,
once you've arrived to City Walk.
Right. So Universal, they hit a giant home run with Harry Potter. And then they made another Harry Potter section over in Studios, Diagon Alley. So Harry Potter has fueled this great amount of profitability for Universal Orlando, and then basically you've realized that Universal's prices basically went the same as Disney when Harry Potter came in. They charge you the same, if not more. When things are normal, right? So you basically have now what was nice about the early 2000s, right, and into the 2000s through, is that Universal Orlando was self-contained, which is what the part of the appeal is right now.
Yeah.
Right? It's still smaller, but there were really only 3 deluxe resorts. There was Royal Peck, Hard Rock, and Portofino. Mm-hmm. Okay, and all of those could be, you're connected to the property. So once you're in those, you're good. You could you get on the ride. You get on a boat or you can walk. You know what I mean? Portofino, you're walking pretty far. Mm-hmm. But the other two, you're walking decent.
And also, was this true back in the early 2000s that if you stayed there, an express pass was figured into your costs already?
I don't know if that was initially launched with that. I don't think it was at first. Because if it was, I'm upset with myself because I didn't take advantage of it. I don't think it was at first. I think maybe they added that perk later. Yeah, the express pass basically is just you could get on the rides much quicker.
And it's included now if you were to stay at one of those. If you stay
at those deluxe resorts, yeah.
Sorry, go on.
But now Universal has expanded and they have different options. But those options, Ash, require buses and transportation. So they have different resort options now. So they've got Cabana Bay, which is like a family suite type of resort, which is connected basically to Volcano Bay. So Cabana Bay and Volcano Bay are sort of interconnected. You've got the Aventura Hotel, which is just a tower basically for, I think, aimed at the mid-20-year-olds that just want to go there and be on property. But unless you walk over to Sapphire, to get on a boat, you technically can't walk. It'd be a far walk. You got to take a bus, to get to City Walk, and then you get off the bus at City Walk and you go to, the parks. And then they also have, what are the other resorts? Oh, Sapphire Falls, which is sort of like a moderate, I guess, resort. It's not full deluxe because they don't charge you the same as Royal Pack or Portofino or Hard Rock, but it's like one tier below that. Sapphire, you can still access the parks via boat, which is nice. So that's still, and it's basically just a little further than Royal Pack is. So technically you can walk. It would be kind of a far walk though. And then, then you have the Surfside and Dockside, which are really not at all that close. Like you've got to get on a bus.
Here's my thought though, now that we're talking about this. I think for Disney, a lot of times, people know that listen to this, that I value, what's the word? Convenience. So I like being close to the parks and everything, but the way that we do Disney, it's kind of extra important because we're taking that break in the middle of the day, and that's usually how we'll do it. For Universal, I mean, you're also saying though, we're saying like once you're on property, you're kind of like once you're at the parks, you're kind of staying there. Right, so maybe it's not as big of a deal to stay further away. And I think with the rise of like people using Ubers and Lyfts, they're not as concerned about a bus ride. I hate to use the word millennials, but I'm going to say it because I think a lot of millennials are just like, I'd rather just pay $8 to get a lift rather than like wait around and wait for multiple buses. If it's super crowded at the end of the night, I'm just going to grab an Uber.
Right.
Who cares?
Right.
And they just don't care.
So there is way more like resort options now at Universal Studios. And then of course, they say the third gate, which is Volcano Bay, but it's really Volcano Bay is just a water park. I would not call it a third theme park. I just don't. It's just not.
We just don't accept.
That was marketing. That's marketing. It's a water park, you guys. So Universal's getting bigger, and it's planning on getting bigger. With the Epic Universe, and there might be
Universal's Epic Universe.
Yeah, and they might put in a train track there. So I mean, it is expanding and growing. But part of like we said, part of the charm of Universal at the moment, especially if you can afford to stay at those deluxe resorts, which you get an express pass free. Which almost, if you are going to buy the express pass,
might as well just stay at the
but you're staying at Cabana Bay and you're going to buy express pass, don't.
It works out being more.
Yeah,
just stay at Hard Rock or Royal Pack or something. Yeah, totally.
Because you get the express pass thrown in for you. But that's the regular theme park express pass, not a special event fast like express pass. Like Horror Nights has a separate express pass.
Oh yeah, they're not going to take the hit on that.
No, they want that money. So there is like a great charm to Universal that does have a different offering than Disney. does. It does. It just does. You know,
yeah, totally.
It does not have the, you know, I think it's getting to that point. Like, it's been around long enough where nostalgia is starting to be a factor for people, because, like, when we talked, you made a funny joke to me. You were like, which park do you like better, Islands or Studios? And I said Studios. And I realized that's not...
What is there? Nothing.
I know.
There's
we'll talk about
there.
that the next time, like the next podcast we talk about mainline theme parks. But, like, I realized that, holy cow, like, the only reason I said Studios is because of nostalgia. Because I was there when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And that is happening with people now. I mean, people that were kids...
Here's the problem, though, with Universal... Not the problem, but they also are the type of operation where they just get rid of stuff all the time and replace it with new stuff. So it's really hard to build nostalgia when that's happening. Now, Harry Potter has been around, meaning like the concept,
like 10
the
years
books
now.
and stuff has been, but I mean, the books have been out for a long time. So arguably, it kind of feels nostalgic because people that have read the books when they came out are around our age, or a little older, a little younger, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, it is interesting. I feel like we've heard from multiple like sources and podcasts and stuff we listen to that a lot of people are going to Universal right now over Disney, which is interesting. But I also feel like
pricing's better.
Pricing's better. I think the things that Disney has put on hold either permanently, so I guess that wouldn't be on hold, that'd be gotten rid of, or things they put on hold have made Disney, like the experience you would have there, very different than normal. Whereas Universal, I'm not sure if that's true. I feel like they're operating at lower capacity, but other than that, the perks that they offer, as far as I know, the Express Pass is still available if you stay at those resorts and other things. The experience you're having in the park is virtually the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Disney doesn't have the dining plan. They don't have fast passes. They don't have extra magic hours. So you might think, why spend all that money for a really different Disney experience when I can go to Universal and virtually have the same experience I would otherwise, at least during the weekdays.
Well, yeah, I heard that right now weekends
are horrible. Yeah.
Stay away from Universal on the weekends. If you can take a few days off in the middle of the week and go, then do it. And you'll probably have a great time with low crowds. They're my friends. We have friends who are Universal
annual in general.
They're annual pass holders. And they check the parks like every day. They get like a, it's at capacity. People are the annual pass is still going for Universal.
You can still get that for Universal. You can't do that for Disney unless you have a certain pass that expired or whatever. Interesting
business decisions being made. But, the appeal of Universal right now still, I think, is that self-contained sort of, like, we're on Universal property and this is what it's very easy to navigate, put it that way. You know what I mean? Very easy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like Disney is a beast, and I feel like when I think of a vacation to Universal, it just feels easy.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
You kind of get there, and you're just like, okay, we're here. And then you sort of like, hey, you want to go into Studios and do The Mummy, which is a fantastic ride.
You're not obsessing about dining reservations or whatever. You kind of have ease and flexibility. It's just built in.
Yeah. And we have like a friend of ours who basically is like a sort of a celebrity in and of himself at Universal Studios, especially at Horror Nights. He knows all these people. He has connections with all these people.
When we walk around with him at Horror Nights, like several people stop us and talk to him.
Right. Yeah. So like there's
they look over at us and think that we're amazing too.
Right. Well, they realize
they get, specifically me.
Who's
I
the
get
true
hit
talent.
on a lot.
Yes, she definitely does.
Especially with how I look right now.
So yes,
very cute.
So very, very cute. So Universal, you guys, is wonderful. I love it. I do love it. Now it is not Epcot. It is not.
As it shouldn't be.
Right.
But it's not.
It is not Magic Kingdom. And that is okay. Universal is its own thing. We're going to, next podcast that we return to the mainline theme parks, we'll talk about Universal Studios. and just sort of how much of a disaster it is at the moment. But it's honestly, it's a wonderful place to go visit. It's very fun, and you do sort of have this built-in just sort of ease, like Ashley said. Like you're not worried about a lot of things. Like one of my favorite spots in all of Universal is not even in the parks. It's on the porch at Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. And just having a beer and a burger and listening to, they usually have musicians there, that are singing Buffett songs or whatever. And it's just fun. You know what I mean? It's just a really great atmosphere. Royal Pack is my fave. And it's just a good time.
I mean, one thing to note too is that when you have the express pass at Universal, I don't think you have to know what time you're coming back.
No.
When you have fast passes at Disney, it's like, okay, we need to do this before our fast pass, which is at 1, which means we need to start heading over there at 12:45, which means then we're gonna do this. Like you're kind of constantly in that we have this planned and time management. Even though it feels relaxed at times, you are kind of working through all of that and looking at your phone. Whereas Universal, I feel like you go, you have the express pass, okay, you get in the line, whatever, what are we going to do next? It kind of has that, which is great. I mean, it's really nice to have that.
So for a long time, and this is what we're hearing from the travel industry, for a long time, Universal was a day that people would take out of their Disney vacation. Well, now it's starting to change, and people are booking multi-day, multi-day trips to Universal.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, like Ashley said, especially if you have the Express Pass, if you go on a day that's not too bad, guys, you could get most of those parks done. Like you could probably do both parks in one day. Now, if you're like a huge Harry Potter fan and you want to go through you get the wand and go through all the things, do all the interactive things in Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade and all that, you could probably spend 2 full days doing all the Harry Potter things obsessively. I mean, there is stuff for you to do, but it is great. I'm excited to go back, and I just really enjoy the whole atmosphere. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, anything else to add, Ash?
No.
All right, well, good. Good.
I don't want to hear from you.
Nobody wants to hear from you, idiot. So basically, thank you so much. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, wherever you get your podcast. Please rate and review us. Share the podcast. I do have one thing I want to add, too.
Yeah, go ahead. I forgot after you just said that. I also just wanted to share that if you're looking to book a trip, we have a great contact for you. Emily is someone we met through the podcast, and she has a vacation planner that specializes in Disney and Universal book and book all travel, including cruises and all-inclusive resorts. Of course, it's at no cost to you, and she can help you with dining and fast passes when that's something that returns, and will also monitor for savings and update you if there's new deals on things that you've already booked, airport transfers, and can make a customized itinerary for your family. And like I said, no obligation quotes. And you can contact her at emily@magicalmousetravel.com. She is awesome. Let her know that we sent you over there, and she can help you out.
Yeah, please do.
She's great.
She's
we
really
chat
good.
all the time about Mickey waffle makers and passes and how we miss things and
yeah, she's a good go-to source, and she's one of the people that have told us that people are booking Universal like crazy. So but anyway, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here from the Midwest. See you later.